In our previous session, we established the fundamental truth that a man is literally what he thinks, and that his character is the sum total of all his thoughts. If character is the structure of our being, we must now ask, how is this structure maintained? How does the silent internal activity of thinking translate into the tangible, external reality of our lives? To answer this, Alan provides us with one of the most powerful and enduring metaphors in the history of self-mastery, the analogy of the mental garden. A man's mind may be likened to a garden. It is a space of hidden soil, rich with potential, and governed by laws that are as absolute as the laws of physics. This garden can be intelligently cultivated, or it can be allowed to run wild. However, there is a principle of nature that every seeker must understand. Whether the garden of the mind is tended with care or neglected with indifference, it must and it will bring forth. It is never stagnant. It is never unproductive. It is a living engine of manifestation that is constantly processing the seeds it contains. Consider first the reality of neglect. If you are not a conscious gardener, if you do not purposefully put useful seeds into your mind, then you have not left the garden empty. Instead, an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein. These seeds come from the environment, from the idle talk of others, from the anxieties of the world, and from the base impulses of the unrefined self. Because the soil of the mind is neutral, much like the earth itself, it does not discriminate. It will nourish the thistle and the thorn with the same vitality it gives to the rose and the oak. When you allow your mind to run wild, you are not avoiding the law of cause and effect. You are simply surrendering your control over it. These weed seeds will continue to produce their kind, filling your mental landscape with wrong, useless, and impure thoughts. These are the seeds that eventually blossom into acts of frustration and bear the bitter results of suffering and confusion. Many people wonder why their lives are filled with thorns, with difficult circumstances and internal unrest, without realizing that they have allowed their mental garden to become an open field for every weed seed to take root. This brings us to the necessity of intelligent cultivation. Just as a gardener tends his plot, keeping it free from weeds and growing only the flowers and fruits he requires, so may a man tend the garden of his mind. This is the process of mental husbandry. It begins with the deliberate act of weeding out. You must become an observer of your own internal landscape, identifying those thoughts that are impure, useless, or destructive. To weed the mind is to refuse to give these thoughts the water of your attention or the soil of your belief. Weeding is an act of purification. Alan teaches us that suffering is always the effect of wrong thought in some direction. It is an indication that the individual is out of harmony with himself and the law of his being. Therefore, the presence of suffering or wretchedness in one's life should be viewed not as a curse of fate, but as a signal that there are weeds to be pulled. By weeding out thoughts of malice, envy, doubt, and fear, you clear the space necessary for right, useful, and pure thoughts to grow toward perfection. As you pursue this process, a profound transformation occurs. You are no longer a victim of the seeds that happen to fall into your mind. You become the master gardener of your soul and the director of your life. You begin to understand, with ever-increasing accuracy, how thought forces and mind elements operate in the shaping of your character and destiny. You realize that you have the power to select the seeds of your future. By planting thoughts of courage, you prepare a harvest of success. By planting thoughts of serenity, you prepare a harvest of peace. This leads us to the heart of the matter, the absolute law of cause and effect. Alan is clear that cause and effect is as absolute and undeviating in the hidden realm of thought as in the world of visible and material things. Every thought seed sown, or even allowed to fall into the mind and take root, produces its own. It blossoms sooner or later into an act and bears its own outcomes of opportunity and circumstance. There is no element of chance in the arrangement of a human life. Every person is where they are by the law of their being. The thoughts you have built into your character have brought you to your current state. This is a truth that many find difficult to accept, especially when they feel out of harmony with their surroundings. However, Alan reminds us that man is a progressive and evolving being. You are where you are so that you may learn and grow. Every circumstance contains a spiritual lesson. As you learn the lesson that a specific circumstance holds for you, that circumstance passes away and gives place to other circumstances. You are only pushed about by circumstances as long as you believe yourself to be the creature of outside conditions. The moment you realize that you are a creative power, the master gardener, you realize that you may command the hidden soil and seeds of your being out of which your circumstances grow. This is the birth of the rightful master of himself. The proof of this law is found in experience. Anyone who has practiced self-control and self-purification will notice that the alteration in their circumstances is in exact ratio with their altered mental condition. When a man earnestly applies himself to remedy the defects in his character, he passes rapidly through a succession of vicissitudes, as the great law adjusts his environment to match his new, purified inner state. We must understand that thought and character are one, because character can only manifest and discover itself through environment and circumstance. The outer conditions of your life will always be found to be harmoniously related to your inner state. Your environment is a reflection of your mental husbandry. If you harbor thoughts of poverty and self-indulgence, you will harvest wretchedness. If you harbor thoughts of happiness, health, and prosperity, you will harvest a harmonious adjustment of the inner with the outer. Men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are. This is perhaps one of the most vital lessons of the mental garden. You may pray for a beautiful garden. You may wish for a harvest of peace. But if you are simultaneously nourishing weeds of resentment and seeds of indolence in your heart, your prayers will remain unanswered. Your wishes and prayers are only gratified when they harmonize with your thoughts and actions. The divinity that shapes our ends is not a distant arbitrary force, it is our very self. To fight against circumstances while nourishing their cause in your heart is a futile endeavor. It is like trying to cut down a weed by trimming the leaves while leaving the root intact. Alan tells us that men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. True liberation comes when you stop accusing others or the tyranny of fate for your condition and commence to search for the hidden justice which regulates your life. As you adapt your mind to this regulating factor, you cease to kick against circumstances and instead begin to use them as aids to your progress. You begin to see every difficulty as a means of discovering the hidden powers and possibilities within yourself. You realize that law, not confusion, is the dominating principle in the universe. Justice, not injustice, is the soul and substance of life. In conclusion, the analogy of the garden teaches us the ultimate responsibility of the thinker. You are the reaper of your own harvest. You learn by both suffering and bliss. The world is your kaleidoscope, and the varying combinations of colors it presents to you at every moment are the exquisitely adjusted pictures of your own moving thoughts. By radically altering your thoughts, you will be astonished at the rapid transformation it will effect in the material conditions of your life. Good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results. Bad thoughts and actions can never produce good results. Nothing can come from corn but corn, nothing from nettles but nettles. Tend the garden of your mind with the same diligence you would give to a plot of earth that sustains your life. Weed out the impure, the useless, and the wrong. Plant with intention the seeds of the right, the useful, and the pure. By doing so, you will walk the highway of strong and high endeavor and arrive at the fruition of your highest aspirations. Keep your hand firmly upon the helm of thought, for you are the master gardener, the author of your environment, and the maker of yourself. Through self-control and right thought, you will find that the sunny shore of your ideal awaits your coming. Comfort yourself with the knowledge that self-control is strength, right thought is mastery, calmness is power.